Good evening, and welcome to 365 Days of Stories with Theo Mayer. Day 78, and I'm going to be telling the story of 12 Iron Sandals. This is a Czechoslovakian tale, as the story of Krakonis was as well. Well, it turns out there was a king quite some time ago, but not that long ago. He had 3 daughters. Now, 2 of them were married, but the youngest was not. And she was fain to get married, for she had taken no interest at all in any of the princes or suitors who had come seeking her hand in marriage. Well, the king, having 3 daughters, knew well the hearts and minds of women, and knew that there was no point in trying to force a husband on his youngest daughter. And so he wished and waited that at some point in time, perhaps some man would come into his court that she would be interested in. And indeed, such a day came. A young prince entered one day. He wasn't really a prince, he was actually a kingdom, great kingdom that was far off and, well, far greater than the kingdom of the king and this princess whose hand he sought in marriage. Well, he came seeking the youngest daughter's hand in marriage. And when he was introduced to her, there was some stirring in her heart and mind that had never happened before. She'd never felt anything like it. The stirring, she took an interest to him. Now, the king had brought with him presents for the princess's father, the king of that land, and the princess, that were much more valuable, much more precious, much more beautiful than any presents that had been brought before. And in the days that followed, she grew very, very fond of him and thought, wow, I think I can do this, and I would like to. She didn't really want to be out of his company when they were apart. And so, after some time, she agreed to marry the king, this young man. Now, they were married. It was a great and magnificent ceremony that supposedly is still talked about in that land to this very day. It was so spectacular. There was one thing that happened before the wedding, though, that this young king had to share with his soon-to-be bride. And it was a deal breaker or not a deal breaker. He knew it, and so he had to share this with her. He said to her, I'm under a spell by an evil magician. I refused to marry his daughter, and because of this, he has cast a spell on me, and I will only be able to be with you by day, but not by night. Now, I will tell you that this spell will not last forever. If you can be patient, it will pass, and we can be together both day and night. Well, the princess said, I'm willing to endure any hardship to be with you. And so, yes, let us be married. So they were. As I said, spectacular ceremony. Well, days passed, and the young king, he stayed there at the court of the king, because what had happened as well was his kingdom, he wasn't able to rule it while this magic spell was cast upon him. It was being handled and dealt with in good hands, but he was, well, banished from his own kingdom until the time would come when this spell would be broken. Broken indeed it would be. The princess was committed. Well, day after day, the princess and the king, the young king, spent their days together, and they were spectacular. She loved every minute they spent together. And everybody loved the young king. They thought he was just the most spectacular person. And so his favor grew. People just, well, like I said, they just loved him because he was sweet and kind and, well, intelligent and knowledgeable and strong and just wonderful, wonderful qualities. The princess got tired of hearing about it because even though she loved every minute they spent together during the day, in the evening she knew that he would be gone. He would get up from whatever was going on, go to his bedchamber and lock himself within the bedchamber, and she would not see him again until the morning. And so her nights were spent in this huge bed, which was too cold and too big to bear the sorrow that she felt in her heart and mind. Day after day this went on. Months turned into years, and she was just at her wit's end. One day they were playing a game together in the evening, and she thought, they were just so occupied that she thought, certainly he's going to completely forget and spend this night with me. It's over. But just like clockwork, he got up, bid her adieu, and went to his bedchamber, and she followed after him. And she peeked through the lock hole, and what she witnessed surprised her deeply, for she saw him don a lizard skin. And as he did this, he turned into a lizard. And as this lizard, he crawled over to the open fireplace and lay before the fire, sighed deeply, and fell asleep. Well, the next day, in the evening, just before the prince, or the king, the young king, was about to go to his bedchamber, the princess, she jumped up and ran, leaving the king behind. Now he quickly got up and pursued her. She went straight to his bedchamber, which he was surprised by. And she went to where this lizard skin was hung up next to the fireplace, and she took it and cast it into the fire. Now the king was right behind her, but he could not stop her from having thrown the lizard skin into the fire. It sizzled and crackled, and then it balled up into a ball. He turned to her and he said, "It would have been better had you not done that, for in 1 month's time, the spell would have been over, and I would have been with you day and night. But now, I am under the power of the evil daughter of the evil magician, and I probably will never see you again. If you were to seek me, it would take wearing out 12 iron sandals and breaking 12 iron staffs and eating 12 iron loaves of bread before you would ever find me." And with that, with a wish and a whirl, he disappeared. The princess was distraught, and she thought, I can't live without him. So she went to an ironsmith and had him make her 12 iron pairs of sandals, 12 iron staffs, and 12 iron loaves of bread. And she began to look and wander over the earth to find his kingdom. Imagine carrying a bag with 12 iron loaves of bread. 12 staffs, 12 pairs of iron sandals, well, 2 on your feet, 1 staff in your hand, and trudging along across the landscape, day after day, night after night. Sometimes she would fall down, just weary from carrying this burden, having traveled through some desolate wilderness area where there was no place to sleep in comfort or find food. And she would think, I can't go on. I can't carry this burden any further. But one by one, year after year, these things began to disappear. One sandal pair after another would break and fall off her feet. She would devour little bit by bit these iron loaves of bread, and the iron staffs would break. Finally, she was down to her last pair of iron sandals, her last iron staff, and just part of the last iron loaf of bread when she felt a pain in her foot and realized that her last iron pair of sandals had broken. And she looked up and saw before her the kingdom of her husband, the king. She sat herself down. She camped out outside of the palace of the king that first night, and passerbys came and looked at her, and she said, tell me, is everything good with the king? They said, well, no. The queen, well, we don't even know if she really is the queen, because we never even knew that there was a wedding, but suddenly there was this woman that was ruling over the entire kingdom, and she seems to be quite evil, and the king has fallen very, very ill. None of us seen him, and this all happened after he returned from a trip that he'd been gone for a number of years. And this queen took over. She's been ruling in a very harsh manner ever since. Well, the princess had brought with her some things, and she thought, okay, I must see him. And she took this beautiful necklace off of her neck in hopes that the queen might pass him on it. She had this idea. And in fact, sitting outside the palace, the evil queen, she passed, and she saw in the lap of this poor kind of, well, decrepit-looking woman, a beautiful necklace. And she saw it. She wanted it. The princess said, I will not give it to you, but I will trade it. And I will trade it if you allow me to spend one night in the king's bedchamber. Well, the queen cajoled. She offered all kinds of other things, but the princess would take none of them. She only wanted that one thing. The queen wanted the necklace, and so she finally agreed. We'll stop the story there. Find out what happens next tomorrow. Okay, have a good rest of your day or evening, and thanks for joining.